and welcome to the 58th episode of In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. My name is Ellie Tingson, and I lead the cyber threat intelligence practice across Asia Pacific, and I'm standing in for Keith today's briefing. And this week we are joined by Dave Truman, Ryan Hicks, Rome Garcia, who's also from APAC, and of course our ransomware expert, Sarah Becker, all from Kroll Cyber Threat Intelligence Team. Today is the 8th of July 2024, and we'll be covering the most recent trends that our CTI team is witnessing across and in the trenches. Let's start off with news you can use. Okay. For situational awareness, the UK's National Crime Agency, alongside Europol, has coordinated to take action against pirated and unlicensed versions of Cobalt Strike. The framework is a commercial tool that can be used for penetration testing purposes, but has been widely used by threat actors during post compromise activity. The recent action taken was against 690 individual instances of malicious Cobalt Strike software located at 129 internet service providers in 27 countries. Overall, the NCA notes that 593 of these addresses have been taken down. Now, Abuse.ch and Spamhaus were amongst the private organizations also involved. Abuse.ch stated that reports have been sent to network owners hosting malicious Cobalt Strike servers to assist in the widespread takedown. Now, this is a very big news as this significantly reduces cyber criminal access to a powerful network intrusion tool. So now let's go to today's briefing. Today, we are covering the following latest trends. We're tracking two vulnerabilities. Dave will be talking about the OpenSSH RCE vulnerability, and Rome will be tackling the latest Cisco vulnerability. Then we'll have Ryan give us the latest observations on Kroll Threat Actor 014 or APT29. And then finally, Sarah will be giving us the latest ransomware roundup. And so, with that, let's hear from Dave about the latest Open SSH vulnerability. Over to you, Dave.
Okay, Qualys discovered an unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability in OpenSSH, which could lead to complete system takeover. The vulnerability has a CVE identifier of CVE 20246387 and a CVSS score of 8.1. The issue relates to a signal handler race condition. Qualys has not released the exploit publicly and say that although it is difficult to exploit, they believe that independent researchers will eventually be able to replicate their results. It should be noted that due to the race condition being triggered after a 120-second login grace period has expired, exploitation can take a large number of attempts and a significant amount of time to exploit. It is further complicated by address space layout randomization. It is recommended to contact vendors and Linux distributions to obtain a fixed version of OpenSSH and monitor for suspiciously large number of SSH connections being made. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate for keeping us up to speed with the latest vulnerability. Now let's get over to Rome. Rome, how's it going with the latest Cisco vulnerability?
Thanks, Ellie. Cisco recently patched the CLI command injection vulnerability in their NXOS software, CVE 2024-20399. The vulnerability allows a user authenticated as an administrator to execute operating system commands as root. According to Cisco, this is due to insufficient validation of arguments passed to specific configuration commands. The devices impacted by this vulnerability are the MDS 9000 series multi-layer switches, Nexus 5500 and 5600 platform switches, Nexus 3000, 6000, and 7000 series switches, and the Nexus 9000 series switches in standalone NXOS mode. Exploiting this vulnerability on Nexus switches that support the bash shell feature does not grant additional privileges. This vulnerability was given a CVSS score of 6.7. It has been reported that the threat actor is actively exploiting this vulnerability for remote access and to deploy malware. Threat actors can evade detection by executing commands through the vulnerability. This does not trigger system syslog messages. However, the initial exploitation step will still be logged in a message reporting that the configuration change was applied. As the impact of this vulnerability varies widely between device models and software releases, we recommend confirming the impact to your environment using Cisco's software checker tool and to immediately patch affected systems. We also recommend reviewing your logs for any unexpected configuration changes. That's all from me. Back to you, Ellie.
Thanks, Rome. You heard it, folks. Time to do some patching for those who are affected. Now, Ryan, KTA014 has been quite active recently. Can you give us some more insights into this threat actor?
Yeah, thanks, Ali, and hi, everyone. So, yeah, looking at KTA 014, also known as a kind of a number of aliases, as you see there, AP79, a Midnight Blizzard, a few. So, the UK and the US government have attributed, in the real world, I guess, to Russian and foreign intelligence services, a wide range of kind of sectors that they tend to target, typically government. And the kind of wider critical national infrastructure, a few others there, kind of aviation and education, and part of the critical national infrastructure being kind of the education and healthcare in particular, a target for this group. And they typically conduct political economic espionage against a wide range of targets in those sectors. So some of their recent notable campaigns are listed just here, with some quite high-profile organisations attributing themselves to have been targeted by the group, as well as several government and diplomatic entities also being targeted relatively recently at the end of 2023 and 2024. More information on those campaigns is in the weekly report itself. So looking at kind of the tactics, techniques themselves, so the group continues to adopt different approaches to gain initial access. Firstly, and I guess most recently, through cloud-based compromises, particularly in the last 6 months, which have involved brute force and password spraying attacks, particularly targeting either service accounts or being able to compromise former employee accounts that have remained active. And some of their social engineering techniques in the cloud have involved multi-factor authentication, bombing, and fatigue, and also registering their own device on the cloud tenant for MFA purposes and to evade kind of existing controls. Secondly, on initial access is CV exploitation. Throughout the years, a number of vulnerabilities they've used to exploit externally facing applications. A full list of those CVs, again, is in the report. And lastly, on initial access is supply chain attacks, particularly prevalent or widely reported on was the SolarWinds compromise in 2022 that saw the group being attributed to inject malicious code into the Orion software that was then sort of spread to a wide range of customers. So, for persistence-wise, during those cloud-based compromises, the group observed creating and modifying OAuth applications to maintain access, even if their kind of initial access through the accounts were being removed or reset. And they're also observed using their own compromised or newly created accounts for persistence, as well as the kind of very commonly used scheduled task to execute malicious DLLs on user logon. And the group, as they've been kind of reported on over the years, quite a wide range of malware and toolsets over time. Here is just a small subset of the most recently associated malware families and tools that the group have been attributed to using. You see that at the bottom there some of the sort of living off the land tools as well that they're known to employ if they need to. So certainly. Something or the malware families to look into if you're interested to sort of track this particular threat actor. And that's really all for me. More information, of course, is found in the weekly report, but for now, I'll hand back to Ellie.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate the additional insights into this threat actor group. So now let's go over to our ransomware expert, Sarah. We're looking at two significant ransomware events. Sarah, can you help us deep dive into this ransomware news?
Yeah, of course, Ali. So our first story that we kind of wanted to give a brief overview and timeline of is the CDK global cyber attack. So CDK Global is a software as a service provider for various car dealerships, and they suffered a cyber attack that caused the organization to shut down all of its systems, leaving clients and customers kind of at a loss for how to operate their businesses and kind of resorting to alternative methods from the services being shut off, such as using just pen and paper to record any of their information. So the company's software is utilized by numerous auto businesses for financing, payroll, CRM, support and services, back office operations, and inventory. So that is about approximately 15,000 businesses that are utilizing this in North America alone. And then after the cyber attack, and it will be addressed during the timeline overview, the attack was later attributed to Black Suit ransomware. So the attack occurred first June 19th. CDK did acknowledge a cyber attack has shut down most of their systems out of caution for their clients and customers. So that left dealerships disposed without the use of the software, and it was kind of difficult for them to conduct normal business operations. And then by the afternoon, the CDK claimed that some DMS functionality was restored, only to then experience another cyber attack. And this leads us to June 20th and through the 21st. CDK then warned customers of the scammers out there claiming that they were affiliated with the company, and they were calling and asking various dealerships who use CDK for credentials. CDK stated also that the outage for their software is likely to continue for several more days. So they were still kind of struggling. So then around June 22nd, the attacks later became attributed to Black Suit ransomware through various sources. They stated that CDK was negotiating with the threat actors to receive a decryptor to obtain their data and not have it leaked on their data leak site. So with news of the ransomware group being tied to the attack, two larger car dealerships also disclosed that they were impacted from the attack and outages. And then on June 25th, CDK did state that they do not think systems would be operational before June 30th, even though they were making significant progress. So they are still suggesting users and customers of that software to kind of make other plans for month-end financial processing. This leads us to the beginning of July, so between the 2nd and the 4th, a spokesperson for CDK stated that they are ahead of anticipated scheduling for nearly all dealerships to be operational by at least late Wednesday, July 3rd, or early morning Thursday, July 4th. So at this time, currently all dealerships are using CDK software and are expected to be back online and operational. And then our next story we have, we kind of covered Brain Cipher in previous weeklies, but Brain Cipher, they carried out an attack on an Indonesian organization. This was late June 2024 that disrupted services such as passport control, various online services, and issuing permits. The ransom demand for that company was allegedly 8 million in Monero in order to receive a decryptor and then not have any of that stolen data leaked. So around the beginning of July, the ransomware group claimed they were going to actually release a free decryption key on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024 for the Indonesian organization. Very rare, but this ransomware group did keep to their word, and on July 3rd, Brain Cipher then posted on their data leak site the link for the decryptor, as well as revealing information for, the reasons why they conducted the cyber attack, amongst answering any other questions that users may have had. In their public statement, they first stated that we hope our attack made it clear to you how important it is to finance the industry and recruit qualified specialists. They then went on to claim that the attack did not carry any political context, and also issued an apology to anyone who the attack may have affected. Next, to kind of highlight some of the questions that the group answered in these statements, they did state that this is the first and last time a victim will actually receive a free decryption key, and Brain Cipher went on to say that they did attack that specific organization just because it was a high-tech industry that requires huge investments, and the attack was actually quote unquote easy for them and required little time to unload the data and encrypt the information. So in these statements, the group did conclude by stating that they're going to wait for the second party to confirm that the decryption key is actually working and that the data has been restored, and then they will, quote unquote, permanently delete the data. So this is just, again, hearsay from the ransomware group. They also included that if the second party says the data is restored by doing it on their own or with help of another third party, then the group will publish the data, adding at least don't screw it up here at the end of their statement. So that is all that I have for the Ransomware Roundup for this week.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Of
That's
course.
very surprising indeed. Thank you for giving us a very comprehensive and insightful briefing. Now, our weekly briefings would not be complete without Keith's today's celebrations. So today happens to be National Video Game Day, so you can say hi to your favorite game consoles. But don't forget that this is the first work day of the week, so keep it feisty. Now, on the other hand, here in Asia, we are celebrating the International Kite Festival in Sanur Beach in Bali, Indonesia. Traditional giant kites are made and flown competitively by teams from the villages of Denpasar. The event is a seasonal religious festival intended to send a message to the Hindu gods to create abundant crops and harvests. So that concludes our weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. Thank you everyone for joining us, especially to our presenters. We hope that you found this session very informative, and if you have any questions, please do send us an email at cti@kroll.com. Once again, that's cti@kroll.com. So have a great week ahead. Salamat at mabuhay.